The following program contains themes and images that may not be suitable for most audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Panda Pig Inc. Rate, review, and subscribe. Hello again. It's Panda.
It's Pig.
And you're listening to
The Hot in the Bones
podcast.
See. Good morning.
Good afternoon. Good night.
Whatever time it is wherever you are. Hello.
How do we sound?
Better than last week, I hope.
God, I hope so. All right, episode 7.
I can't believe we made it here.
How do you feel? Anxiety.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Lit.
But I'm having a good time.
I'm having a good time too.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good.
It's good.
It's good.
All right.
Yeah, so this is episode 7. Very
God.
the pinnacle episode of the first season.
Yes, ma'am.
So
let's get into it.
Here we encounter for the first time the infamous Howard Epps.
God, what was the name of this episode again? The something.
The Man on Death Row.
That's what it's called,
I believe.
Damn Howard Epps.
Oh, yes. So, in this episode, a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed defense attorney enlists the help of the Jeffersonian and the FBI to try and exonerate a man who's about to be executed within, was it 48 hours or 30 hours? Something like that.
I think it was something along those lines. I didn't really care for much for him, but, it'd be like that sometimes.
It do. So, they're trying to help solve, prove his innocence, I guess, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's been closed for 7 years, and he's on death row. But I guess there's some loose ends.
Yes, that they're trying to tie up. And it turns out that he orchestrated the whole thing to his benefit.
Dun, dun, dun.
And thus leading him into being kind of the first villain, long-standing villain of the show.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting. It's pretty cool.
So let's get into it, okay?
Let's do this thingy.
So the episode opens up with Booth filling out an application for Bones to carry a firearm.
Yep.
He denies her because she was previously charged with a felony for shooting Ken Thompson, the senator's aide, in the first episode. She shot him in the leg in self-defense because he was going to set her on fire.
And his fish. And himself, because he did not care.
He gave 0.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts?
So I had a couple of thoughts, actually.
Okay.
My first thought was on how the scene really reminds me of a situation where you're being interviewed by someone you know. So you probably say things you probably shouldn't realistically say in a formal situation. Like, for example is... So this is why I feel like in this situation I relate to Bones, because Booth asks her, so why do you want a gun? And she's like, to shoot people. And I'm like, yes, correct answer. But you see, in this situation, he's just like, instead of putting down what she says, he puts down what she should actually be saying. So I was just like, see, this kind of makes me think of that whole situation of if you're being interviewed by someone you know, it's hard to take them seriously.
Right.
You'd just be like, oh yeah, why do you want to work here? Because I need a job and I have no money.
Why the formalities?
Right, exactly.
True.
Something that Pig pointed out to me as we were watching the episode is because Booth denies Bones of getting a gun, and she notices that the page is blank. And I was like...
He barely filled it out.
Exactly. And I was like, hold on. let me pause this. And I look and I'm like, he wrote maybe her first, last name, and one more box that you can barely see. And I was like, yo.
Booth is not committed to writing. We learned this in the 4th episode.
Yes. Like all his scribbling.
When he scribbled in that episode. Yeah, he's not committed to continuity and making it to, what's the word? Suspend our disbelief.
Yes. He's just like, it'd be like that. Like, but even, okay, so you know how he denies Bones of getting a gun?
Yes.
Bones tells Booth that he needs to write down that he was wrong for charging her, and he's like, oh, there's no space. And I'm like, yet it's a blank page. You're saying there's nothing on the page. Okay, whatever.
True. He had plenty of space to write that down.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
So, it just goes along with this whole scene is just literally just confirms how Bones is obsessed with getting a gun. Like, she really wants a gun.
Yes. Yes. I have many thoughts on this scene.
Seriously? Okay, let's do it.
So, this 2-minute clip is an example of a string of the most unethical behaviors committed by an FBI agent.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. So... okay.
You okay?
Yes.
Are you sure you can get it together?
So I have issues with the idea that she had a felony charge in the first place, but let's talk about that first, okay?
All right, let's do it.
So, reminder, I'm not a police officer, I'm not an FBI agent, I'm not a lawyer, but this is my interpretation of events based on my own knowledge, understanding, opinions, etc.
Yeah, so don't shoot the messenger.
Right. So the scenario that they're referencing when she was charged was from the first episode. She carried a weapon into the home of Ken Thompson. She had it concealed. It was in the back of her pants when she went into his home to confront him on destroying evidence. So he tried to set her on fire, and at that point she pulled out her gun and shot him in the leg. So it's a sticky situation because technically she wasn't in public. And Washington, D.C. is not an open carry state. So what that means is that if you want to carry your weapon in public, you need to apply for a concealed carry permit. There are some states that you aren't required to have a concealed carry permit, but you can carry your weapon in public.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm. So places like Texas, for example, open carry. So people can carry their guns without having to have a permit.
But because they're in Washington, D.C., and that's their laws. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So their law is if you want to carry your gun out in public, it has to be concealed, and you have to have a permit to do so. Of course, unless you're a law enforcement agent or whatever.
All right.
Okay. So, but Bones is not in public, so I'm just trying to cross off all the charges she could potentially have. So she's not in public. She's got a weapon. I don't know if she's got the proper documents for it, if she got it illegally. I don't know. But she's not in public, so that doesn't apply. So the only real laws she's violated is breaking and entering into Thompson's home and shooting him in the leg.
That was hilarious.
But shooting him in the leg was self-defense.
Yes, because he wanted to set her on fire.
So personally, I don't think she would have been charged in the first place. I don't think Booth would have charged her. And also, considering their partnership, I don't think he should have been the arresting officer. And they say that she was arrested. You know?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how that plays out. But anyway, so then there's the idea that he's filling the application out for her for a concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
Which is wrong. For one, she'd be filling it out herself. And two, if he's the arresting officer for her felony, the fact that he's filling out this application for her, that's two wrongs. Conflict of interest, and he shouldn't be filling out her applications for her. Okay.
Oh yeah, because it was an application.
Yeah.
Now I think about it, when we froze the screen, we're like, hold on. This is an application. He even gives her another one later and tells her to fill it out.
Yeah, so the fact that he's filling out is wrong, and the fact that he's the one who arrested her and then is denying her, all conflict of interest, all wrong.
If it makes you feel better, they did say that he was wrong for charging her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
so
agree.
At least there's that.
On the other side of things, not an ethical point, something interesting to note. So when Booth is telling Bones she doesn't need a gun, she should just talk people to death. It reminds me of something I read in college in a textbook when we were reading about and learning about de-escalating situations.
Okay.
So I read how female officers on average are better at de-escalating situations, leading to less violence through their work.
I believe that, actually.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember the exact study, but I found one when I was researching for this episode from 2014 by Amalia R. Miller and Carmit Siegel, called Do Female Officers Improve Law Enforcement Quality? Effects on Crime Reporting and Domestic Violence Escalation. So specifically looking in areas of domestic violence. They found, quote, that female officers help prevent the escalation of domestic violence. Increases in female officer
de-escalates or escalates?
They prevent the escalation.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they should have just written de-escalation, but that's their quote.
Okay.
So they said, increase in female officer representation are followed by significant declines in intimate partner homicide rates and in rates of repeated domestic abuse. So from their conclusion, what they're basically saying is that having a female officer present is a variable that is included to show how there isn't as much domestic violence or how these things are kind of mitigated.
Sure. Okay. There's not that much domestic violence in the world.
No. So I'm not saying like it's any crazy amount, but
that's just how it sounds.
But by including female officers in that workplace, it helps
bring the numbers down.
So that's just in domestic violence, but in,
it just didn't sound right.
I know. But I think it's a lot because on average, obviously there are exceptions.
Of course.
Females are not as physically strong or impressive or intimidating as men are in a physical way, on average. So women have to be diplomats or negotiators or... they have to use their words to be able to de-escalate situations. So I just thought that was very interesting. So Bones, to tie it back, obviously, Bones talking people to death, it's actually a valid suggestion.
Yeah. I mean, you remember how I said, use your womanly ways?
Use your womanly ways. Oh my God.
It made me think of how, when we moved to the Amy Morton scene, the federal public defender.
Yes.
She was, because Booth is like, how'd you get in here? I gave them your picture. Like, what the heck? And she's like, I wore the tiny skirt. And I'm like, use your womanly ways.
So Amy Morton is what I'm assuming she's a federal public defender. They never explicitly say, they just say she's a defense attorney. But the fact that she's on the case for Howard Epps and he was charged federally, I'm assuming she's a federal public defender.
Yeah. So
she's waiting in Booth's office. She's representing death row inmate Howard Epps and convicted murderer. She believes he's innocent. Booth...
Based on a pubic hair.
Yeah.
One pubic hair.
Booth's the arresting officer for the case 7 years ago. She wants him to re-review the evidence because Epps is going to be executed in 30 hours. She's only been on the case for like 2 weeks, but
I thought it was less than a week.
Oh yes, less than a week.
Yep.
And based on this pubic hair that was found on the victim that was not tied to Epps, she wants them to take a look at it.
Yep.
basically what the pubic hair might mean is that there was another man that night who could have potentially murdered the victim, April Wright.
And they're assuming, it's possible Howard Epps is innocent and he was wrongly accused and could be sentenced to death on a wrong accusation. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, the way she's acting, I'm like, are they seriously like that? Like, federal public defenders, like, seriously? Are y'all really like this? Like, here she is basically cornering Booth because it's like he's been found, like, Epps has been found guilty in all these ways Booth is saying. Like, literally, they went through a whole process. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, yet this public defender's like, are you sure, though? But are you sure? After studying this case for less than a week.
So
okay, honey.
So as to whether Booth would actually help investigate this based on her favor, I can't say whether that would be a thing or not. Yeah. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But in regards to how she acts, yeah. I mean, there definitely could be federal public defenders who act like that. They tend to act different depending on
who they are, maybe?
Not just who they are, but depending on what branch in the government you're in.
Really?
So for example, if you're in the middle of a trial, right, before somebody's convicted, you're probably, you very well could butt heads with the federal public defender, right?
Lit.
But then let's say sentencing comes around, your guy's been convicted, and a whole bunch of crap comes out, then they may be the sweetest person ever because they want to get on the good side so that they can maybe make a deal or something. It all depends on what the situation is. Oh,
okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
They can be friendly and they cannot be friendly.
I was just like, man, this chick is annoying. What is your deal, honey?
But I think the thing that they do get right is it depends. It depends because whether it's like state or federal funding, whatever. Yeah. But there can be public defenders who fight tooth and nail for their cases.
It just all depends.
But then there are also public defenders who are paid very little and have 1,000 cases and don't give a crap.
That's crazy.
So it just depends on what part of the spectrum you're on.
Yeah, that's yikes.
Yeah, so Amy Morton suggests that Booth go and talk to Howard Epps. So he meets him in prison, talks to him a little bit, and Epps believes he's a scapegoat for April Wright's murder and is trying to convince Booth that he's innocent.
I swear, dude, I felt Booth with the whole eye rolling because I'm just like, he just feels so sus in this scene.
And like I said, maybe we're biased because we have hindsight.
Or maybe, because we've seen this episode how many times.
But I do not care for his performance at all.
I really don't.
He is one of my favorite villains, though.
Really?
Because he's so cunning and he's not untouchable. Wink, wink, hint, hint to a later villain that I absolutely despise.
Oh, yeah.
But he's enough.
Pig hates it so much. I almost called you Panda. I'm Panda. What the heck?
Yeah. I'm rubbing off on you.
Stop that.
But I like him as a villain. I don't know. He's
memorable and forgettable to me at the same time. I think it's because it's just first season.
Well, I think it's also because he goes through a couple, makeovers.
Yeah, when I first saw his face, I'm like, wait, I don't remember him looking like this. And I'm like, yeah, that's him because, Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of a brief scene, but basically they're just trying to introduce you to Howard Epps. So then we go from Epps to the lab because Booth has got to tell everybody about the fun stuff that's going to happen to them this weekend.
Yes.
So Hodgins and Zach are, there's so much going on in the scene.
It opens with Hodgins and Zach beetle racing.
Yes.
That's the first thing you see. And betting a buck every time.
And then Angela comes in. She's going on a date. She's disappointed because she wants, Bones to hang out, but Bones just wants to work in the lab.
Yeah.
Booth brings the case to them about April Wright. She was a 17-year-old girl. She was found beaten to death at a federal park. And Bones agrees to look at the evidence as a favor to Booth.
Because she respects him. Mm-hmm. Because he said please.
Yes.
Dude, I had so many thoughts. Did you?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I love how much is going on. The Hodgins and Zach dynamic continues.
Yes, for sure. What got my ear was when Angela declines Hodgins' invitation to bet with him and Zach about these beetles. Uh-huh. And Angela's response is she goes, oh, no thank you. I'm going to go have sex now. And then she immediately goes to Brennan.
And then Hodgins is like, okay, have fun.
Yes, he goes, it was casual too. Very casual. Have a good time. Mm-hmm. What? But that's as she's walking to Brennan and asks her, you want to come? And I'm like, to have sex? Is that what there's no clarification.
Well, and then she says, Troy has a friend.
Yes.
Troy's the guy she's seeing this episode.
But it's you would think it'd be a different way she words it, but she's like, do you want to come? You want to come along?
Yes. I do love Angela, though, in this episode.
Oh, I love her.
She just seems so in control, and even maybe sometimes a little bit condescending, but overall she's a mood.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. And she continues to be the only social squint, and the only one who seems to have a good work-life balance, where, come to work, but then actually not live there.
She takes it apart,
yes.
piece by piece. Yes. Except for that time we were doing episode 4, and, the Man in the Mirror.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, dude, why you up so late in the lab?
I remember that.
Seriously? You got Bones and Booth in a Washington state, and you're still awake in Washington, D.C. in the lab. Seriously?
She was on edge because Bones and Booth were on a sex field trip.
Whatever. And you'd be on edge at the lab. Give me a break.
Yeah, well, she had to be there in case they needed her.
Oh, gosh. Oh, but speaking of her, though, it was after she leaves Brennan, you see Booth walking in, and he compliments Angela, being like, oh, looking good, Angela. And she's like, don't I know it?
I know, I love her.
I was like, yes, girl. Yes, there's so much happening in this scene, guys. It was back to back to back. Because after that comment, you hear Booth say to Zach and Hodgins while he's watching them doing, was it the beetle betting? Yeah, beetle racing. He's like, look at our tax dollars hard at work. And I was like, dude. But then you have Hodgins, being sassy, asking, what's break time at the FBI?
Right.
So then you have Booth literally sabotage Hodgins' beetle.
Yes.
And then he moves on to Bones.
Mm-hmm, because now he's got to try to get her to help with the case.
Yep. And her remark to him when he's asking about her plans, dude, had me dying. Because he's literally asking her, what are you up to? What are you up to? And she just goes between, his new girlfriend, the corporate lawyer, and the defense lawyer on the side, your weekend must be completely booked. And I'm like, dang! Yikes, you calling him a hoe bag.
She is.
Ugh.
She is.
He's a hot hoe bag if he's a hoe bag, shoo.
And then, so then they go to Bones' office, and he kind of gives her the lowdown on the case. And something that they show really, really early on, which they've already shown in previous episodes, what was the episode? Was it a boy in a...
Are you talking about, their bond or how they respect each other?
No, so... I'm trying to remember what episode it was. So the episode where they were going to go to the banquet.
Oh, that episode.
What episode was that?
Probably 3, I think. Episode 3 or 2.
Was it?
No, 3.
Was it A Boy in a Bush?
It might have been. A Boy in a Tree?
A Boy in a Tree.
It was Boy in a Tree.
Yes. A boy in a Tree. Yep. So the thing that it reminds me of in that episode is... No, it was A Boy in a Bush because... Bones...
Have we done Boy in a Bush?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
I thought Boy in a Bush was episode 5.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
Girl, this is episode 7.
It be like that. I'm like, yeah. I'm getting my episode. It's because it's a boy. You gotta train a bush. What? They're both green. Okay. They're both green. I spy something green. Okay.
They come right after each other, too. So, like, it's 3 is a boy, a boy in a tree, and 4 is a boy in a bush.
No, 4 is the man and a bear, and 5 is a boy in a bush.
We should not continue this. Okay, so anyways, my point was, in the episode of A Boy in a Bush, Bones makes the promise to the foster kid and basically trusts that Booth isn't going to make a liar out of her. Mm-hmm. Right? So it just reminds me of how she said to him that she won't respect the rules, but she won't respect the law, but she'll respect Booth.
Which is so sweet.
She'll do anything for him. So he comes to her on a weekend, and he's asking for a favor
personal favor
for the defense attorney. And she's like, I won't do it to the defense attorney, but I'll do it for you. Mm-hmm. So if it's a personal favor for you, then I will work this weekend.
Because he's trying to say that the favor is for Amy. And she goes, no, because technically the favor would be for you, for Amy. And I would do it for you.
Mm-hmm. So they really lay it on thick within the first 7 episodes that Bones and Booth have a special bond.
Yes.
Where she respects him wholeheartedly.
Regardless of whatever he thinks or his mood or his theories, she respects him too.
Or her sass.
Or her sass. Oh, gosh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they start looking at the evidence. Mm-hmm. The gang finds some foreign matter in the x-rays, maybe some defensive impacts on the bones. Bones sends Zach to the park where April was found to look for particulates and take some photos. Mm-hmm. And Booth is still convinced that Epps is guilty.
So am I.
Mm-hmm. But he still wants to be certain. So he wants them to look at the evidence.
Yeah. I mean, he tells him, he goes, all right, go for it. Because even Bones asks him, like, do you still want us to keep going? And, you know, he said, okay, go for it. Mm-hmm.
I love, though, so when the scene opens up, Hodgins is just giving random facts on different torture methods.
Yes.
And I love how, like, depending on the situation, he has a different fact.
I love
on some kind of horrific trivia.
I love him.
I just connect to him on knowing random stuff.
Yeah. That's pretty much Pig in a nutshell. That and song lyrics.
Yes.
Like, whatever you say, she'll link it to some song lyrics.
Mm-hmm. I speak in song lyrics, movie quotes, TV quotes, random vines and TikToks.
I remember in earlier days we realized her big inspirations was like Steve from Blue's Clues. We're like, whoa, where did this come from?
I still love Steve.
Gosh, we do. Big inspiration in our life.
Great guy.
Yes. Fabulous. Yep. Great dog.
Great dog. You know what?
Chef's kiss to the dog.
Blue doesn't get enough credit here. All of us older generation are still remembering Steve, but you got to remember Blue.
Always remember Blue.
Always remember Blue. Mm-hmm. So this episode is very evidence heavy. We'll try to give our best commentary, and we apologize if most of it is just simping over Booth.
We apologize in advance.
Yes.
We are creating segments called Simp and Swoon, so be prepared, because there will be a lot of that in this episode.
We're going to try to police ourselves, okay, so that we're not absolutely horrendous, but we can't help it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, don't shoot Panda, but I started watching Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and your girl has fallen in love with David Boreanaz's Oliver again.
I'm so happy.
I was like, oh my gosh, all I want to see is Angel this entire time.
Like, this moment makes me so happy, because when we started recording this podcast, you had only heard of them, and you had not seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Angel, and I was about to cry.
But I knew all the actors. I've seen these actors, and, you know, I kind of got curious, and I was like, you know what? Okay, what's all the fuss about? Why is all these actors coming from these shows? Let me see. And I kind of got her.
Now she's 11 episodes deep and dreaming about it.
Oh, God. What am I doing with myself?
So Zach goes to the park to go look at the evidence. He takes some photos, and he kind of sees a pattern from the numbers around the park.
Especially because he has photogenic
memory.
Yes.
So he goes back to the lab, and Angela's there with her date because Bones has called her in. Her date is Troy. Zach calls Hodgins to let him know about the code that he found, and they realize that it's a date and directions to the park, meaning that she was going to meet someone there. It was from the random number that they had found with the evidence. The police originally thought it was a phone number, but it looks like it was kind of a riddle. So,
I thought it was too long to be a phone number, but okay.
I agree. I didn't count the numbers.
I didn't either, but to me, first glance, it did look like a lot of numbers.
I think it's because it started with a 1, maybe.
Possibly. The illusion.
But they said it was a number to a woman in a nursing home. So,
I don't know.
That was kind of their thing. But, Troy, Angela's date, he seems so confused as to what everybody's jobs are. And so he talks to Hodgins a little bit.
Hodgins even tells him what they do.
I know. And sends him away.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, Angela sends him away to the lounge.
Sends him away.
She goes, "Come on, baby, go wait in the lounge. Go up the stairs over there. Don't talk to me, no."
So Troy's so airheaded. He looks like he's asleep.
What?
He looks like he's half awake, but also maybe has trouble seeing. Maybe stoned, but he just doesn't seem like he's all there, his character. He just kind of looking around where am I?
Like a bumbling idiot. Oh, maybe he's stoned. I don't know.
He's clearly just her boy toy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I love how she talks to him. She's like, "Okay, sweetie, over there, it's just up the stairs. Okay, hon?
Yeah, don't talk to anyone.
Yeah, don't talk to anyone. Just, keep to yourself."
Yup.
Yeah, I couldn't. I hate Troy. But he gets a good laugh out of me.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I do have thoughts about him in this scene.
Later on.
No, not even later on. This scene.
Okay, what are your thoughts?
Because I was dude, can Angela even bring him in? What the heck?
Yeah, probably not.
I was like, dude, you brought him in. He's not on the platform, but he's literally just a random human that came in. What? Huh?
I guess she's vouching for him.
I guess so.
And she sends him to the lounge.
Yeah, whatever. But later in that scene, Bones finds a little bone shard on the clothing that was missed in the original investigation.
Yes.
And my first thought was, look at that. Another shot. Again, at the FBI forensics team. Because when she finds it, it's an organic mineral. Mm-hmm. And apparently, Bones is like, well, how did they miss that? And Hodgins is like, they're not as good as we are. And I'm like, well, damn, that's what I mean. You just throw them under the bus.
Mm-hmm. It's a constant superiority battle.
Yes, it really is. And as this is happening, you see Zach comes running in. Yes. And he starts screaming and talking oh my gosh, out of excitement.
Because he solved the mystery.
Because of the numbers. And that's when they bring up how it's because of his photogenic memory. He realized what the numbers meant, and he just spoke so fast out of excitement, but it was just the cutest thing. And
it was adorable.
It really was. And my first thought was I kind of feel that, because, in general, when your brain is thinking so fast that your mouth doesn't move fast enough.
That's every day of my life.
Yes, that's how I felt. The only difference is Zach was just talking really quickly. It's just... excitement. The words were coming out, just probably not in the order he meant it to be in. But when I try to speak, it comes out blah, 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 blah. No. I just, apparently I can't. I can't. What are words? Gosh.
Right. So, the next scene shows up where...
Oh, and Hodgins just realized that was it the mineral that they found?
Oh, yeah. They found gravel.
Yeah. They realize that the victim was killed at a separate location,
Yes.
so they need to re-examine the remains.
Mm-hmm. So that is something that is enough to further their investigation.
Sad face.
Giving them kind of reasonable doubt as to whether Epps may have not killed April Wright.
Yeah, pretty much. And that sucks.
So they go... Scene. Yes. So Booth goes to speak with April's parents and their attorney.
Yeah.
We learned that that April wanted to be a lawyer and that she had worked with the family's attorney, David Ross, on the weekends. And
keep in mind, he has a wife and kids.
So basically, the whole point of this scene is we figure out that David is probably the one who left the pubic hair. Because when...
It's the way he starts talking to Booth. It's like, was it like an alarm goes off in the head?
Yeah.
Like, red flag.
So Booth gets a call from Amy and Bones while he's meeting with the parents, and they let Booth know that they're going to go see the judge about getting an exhumation order to see April's body. Because they're
so jacked up.
Yes. So the parents are kind of distraught. David Ross sends them out of the room to talk to Booth in private. Mm-hmm. And Booth says something along the lines of, they found the pubic hair, and the pubic hair isn't new evidence. It's just always been dismissed because it hasn't been linked to anybody.
Right.
And they didn't see it as sufficient.
Right.
So... Booth says something along the lines of, well, we should find the guy who it belongs to and he'll answer some of these questions. Yeah. And David Ross says, sex in a car.
Well, he says, can you link it to someone, basically? Mm-hmm. And, could that put them in jail type of thing? And that's when they talked about, it was just sex in a car. It was probably with a teenager, blah, blah, blah. You could never know. That's when he brings that up.
And Booth is like, I never said anything about a car.
Yep.
And he's like,
it's in a parking lot.
So,
obviously, it's in a car.
Basically, revealing that he's the secret lover.
He's totally sus.
And mind you, he's probably her father's age. And
like we said, married with kids.
Mm-hmm. Now, here I will get on a little bit of tangent of how I feel when it comes to age gap relationships.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because clearly,
okay, we're going there.
April probably didn't view this as just a hookup.
She was 17.
She admired this guy, right? So to her, it was probably a relationship.
Oh, yeah. So, especially when you're younger. You definitely will be like, older man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it all depends on how old the youngest person in the relationship is. Really? Because for example, my thoughts are, if the youngest person is 12, right? Ew. And the other person is 14. That sounds gross, right?
Yeah.
But in all reality, that's only 2 years.
And it makes sense because, they're still technically children.
But if someone
Even though technically the 14 is considered a teenager.
But if one person is 22 and the other person is 24, not gross, right?
No.
Because the younger person is at an age to where they can better understand the relationship, right?
Of age.
Right. So then let's say somebody is 10 and then the other person is 20. Gross. Yikes. But then let's say somebody's 30 and the other person is 40.
Or, 30 and 40. I was thinking 20 and 30.
Yeah, or even 20 and 30. To me, it's a lot of the research, and I don't have the numbers here, so take this with a grain of salt. But I watched this therapist online. I can't remember his name, but his channel is called Psychology in Seattle. Okay. And he's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and he talks about the statistics of age gap relationships and how they can be, on average, very successful. And it has nothing to do with, it's not looked as something that could hold them back in their relationship. It's just another variable, another difference that other people might have. Right. So to me, it just depends on how old the youngest person is. If the youngest person is mature enough and old enough to understand the relationship and what it means, then I don't think it's a big deal. But I think the problem here is when the person is really young and the other person is really old, it's just gross.
Yeah.
Like 17 and this dude's probably in his 40s. Yeah. Like, what
and
could
she's a virgin.
Like, what could he possibly be getting out of this relationship beyond just
a hot piece of ass?
Yeah. But also, like, think of 17-year-olds. They're babies. Like,
yeah, until they turn 18, then all of a sudden they're an adult.
Yeah, and just because they're legally an adult, I still don't think it's right.
I don't think they're adults either.
17-year-olds don't look like they do in the movies. 17-year-olds, they look like babies.
Except for nowadays.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
But that's only in pictures and stuff.
Not even just pictures. I've seen them. It's very strange. They're dressing up even older, and I'm like, stop it.
Yes, stop it.
Stop that foolishness.
So anyways, that's my side tangent.
Yeah, I mean, it's valid. I think it's just not only based on, like, the younger... I feel like it's more like the younger person's maturity in general.
Yeah, that too. I think they both go hand in hand.
Like, did puberty hit? What is their maturity level? Do they really understand what's going on and what it means to be in a relationship with someone who is, twice your age?
Because I can tell you at 15, I probably thought it would have been super sexy to be with some 30-year-old man or whatever.
However, you probably didn't even know what was going on.
Yes, but now looking back, obviously in hindsight, I would not have been mentally prepared for that relationship. But at 15, could I hold a pretty good, mature conversation with a 30-year-old? Yeah. But does that mean that I was mature enough for an adult relationship? No.
To me, I feel like if that situation happened to where you did end up in a relationship, it's more of like the immaturity of the older person. Because, you have the younger one who is mature, but it also says a lot about the immaturity, about whoever is twice the age or something. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they somehow relate more to someone who is way younger to them for some odd reason. Yeah. But, it happens.
Maturity or their pedophilic tendencies.
That's very possible. But if they are technically, quote-unquote, legal, then, usually I feel like it's based more on maturity and mutual understanding, consent. But obviously when you're younger, below legal age, I kind of doubt there's really legitimate consent, in my opinion.
I agree.
But it'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah, so in this situation, I feel like he's gross.
Oh, and he's not even cute.
No, they never are. Never a cute senator, and never a cute older affair.
Back to episode 1, guys.
Back to square one.
Yes.
Never a hottie.
No.
Then I could at least understand. But you know what? Yeah.
Treat yourself.
But yeah, he's gross in this one, and I don't... I don't like him.
I don't like him, and I also don't like the fact that... I don't know. To me, I just feel bad for the family in general because I'm just like the concept of, exhuming a body that's already been buried, especially when the victim was murdered. That's just so messed up.
Yeah.
So messed up. Because I asked Pig earlier, I was like, hold on. What if the family said no? But apparently it's not their say.
I mean, I think they do kind of have a say, but ultimately, like, if the judge... approves it, then the judge approves it.
That sucks. Like, I feel like this does actually happen in real life, and it's really unfortunate. Like, let them rest in peace, yo.
Yeah, but also at the same time...
if someone is innocent, you need that evidence.
Yeah, and...
It's just the idea of exhuming someone's body you already put to rest. It's just... sloppy to me on the forensic team side, and just in general very inconsiderate for the family and for the dead.
Yeah,
it's very wrong.
True,
in my opinion. Obviously, though, but
so on the way,
sticky situation.
Yeah, on the way for Bones and Amy to go get the exhumation order.
Oh God,
they're in the car and they kind of have a conversation. Basically, Amy's got it hot for Booth, but feels
Don't
like
we
she's
all?
missed her opportunity.
You set that up. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? And of course, Bones is clearly not picking up what she's laying down.
Nope.
And
dude,
interesting though. I feel like Booth has attraction first, obviously, by how he looks at her and the little glances that we notice now.
So
but
cute.
I think Bones feels more for him than she lets on at a very earlier stage.
I agree. I definitely believe that.
She's very defensive
Always.
against any kind of implication that Booth might be attractive.
Oh, yeah.
But also, she's fiercely loyal to him and anything that he wants her to do. And she's oddly invested and critical of his personal life.
I feel like she's always been into him since day one. I mean, she literally told him she could be a duck for him. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and it was obvious that Booth was always into Bones ever since the beginning. Oh, yeah. That was totally obvious.
Obviously.
But, dude, you already know what I'm going to bring up about Amy. This girl she literally is so upfront with Bones. Like, hey, I'm picking up a sex vibe between you and Booth. Like, dude. Like, Pig, I don't know about you, but do you just go up to people you barely know and be like, hey, I'm picking up a sex vibe? Like, no! Is that who we are? No!
I barely talk to people I barely know.
It'd be funny if people actually really do this.
Well, let's do it. Let's go to Walmart tomorrow.
Why are you like this?
Let's do it. You know how wild and fancy free I am and how likely I am to talk to strangers? Let's do it. Let's go up to a stranger and ask them if we've got a sex vibe.
I'm gonna just poke them with a stick and run. Enjoy. You do that. You do that. You can.
Yeah, because we both know it's highly likely.
Oh, yeah.
Highly likely. I'm a very outgoing person.
Totally. Very.
But yes, it was very weird for her to bring that up.
Yes.
It was kind of an awkward conversation.
Incredibly. But, as else as she even asks, like, Bones, like, do you think, like, Booth is hot? And Bones is like, no, not at all. And here we are like, nah. He's not hot. He's on fire.
We're like, you're right, Bones.
You're right.
Something that we were saying. My brain works faster than the mechanics of my mouth.
It's okay.
So, I was watching the episodes with my sister, and we just keep pausing and rewinding because we're noticing these little things, subtle acting things that Booth does or that the other characters do. And I realized it's just so fun doing this because you're analyzing the episode, so obviously you're looking for details and interesting things, but it's like you're picking up things you didn't see before. Yeah. And it's so fun than when you're just casually watching it.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Completely.
Yeah, it adds a whole new experience to it.
We've watched Bones, like, from beginning to end how many times? Well, you just went to the end, but
I know.
It still counts how many times you watched.
Yes.
And it's like, we never caught certain things, like, what we've been catching, and it's just like, whoa.
And interesting enough, I would probably, the main seasons I would rewatch over and over again were, like, 1 through 4 would probably, but especially 1 through 3. I would rewatch those all the time. I think
mine were usually 3 to 5.
3 to 5, really?
I don't remember why. I think it was just 3 had a very special place for me. Season 3, I think. But then,
it also just depends for me on, like, maybe even specific episodes.
Or what I feel like, do I feel like seeing who's together and who's not together? Or it kind of along those vibes.
There are certain episodes I avoid to protect my heart.
Oh, yeah. We'll let you guys know when we get there.
So Booth ends up having a conversation with his boss about reinvestigating the case. He kind of gets chewed out. And his explanation to his boss is he's trying to tie up loose ends regarding the potential involvement of David Ross. Mm-hmm. You know,
don't you like there's another David?
Yeah, so many Davids.
Always characters David, but it's not Booth, whose name is literally David Boreanaz. So.
True. And you know what? I didn't even think about that. This is true.
That's all I think about.
Yeah, I didn't really have any thoughts about this scene. Did you?
For when he's getting his ass chewed out?
Yeah.
The only thing I thought about was, like, do you think they can really suspend Booth for freelancing on a death penalty case they cleared 7 years ago? Like, can they really suspend Booth? Like, I feel like it's possible. Because I'm like, dude, you kind of went out of, you just kind of went out of your boss's thing and just did your own thing, you know?
If he's given, like, a direct order to not look into it, and he continues to, he could get reprimanded, whether that's getting suspended or not. So, yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I think it makes sense. Yeah. That was the only thing I really kind of thought about, but other than that, no. Yeah. We can move on to the judge.
Mm-hmm. So Bones and Amy meet Judge Cohen at his home in the wee hours of the morning.
It was 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm. And they basically tell him why they want to exhume the body, that they want to investigate these shadows and the potential particulates that could be there.
On the x-ray that they were showing him.
Yep, and the judge agrees to sign the order.
He was not very agreeing at first.
No.
They eventually did it. But, eventually.
Yeah.
Movie magic, story purposes. It'd be like that.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So then at the lab, after it's been signed, they bring the bodies there.
The scene, yo.
Bones, Angela, and Amy are looking at some press footage of Howard Epps talking about how he's innocent. And
Gross.
April is all like, yep, I totally believe him. I believe he didn't do it.
I believe he did do it.
And so they go out to go look at the body. And Bones is looking at April like, you probably shouldn't go out there. Amy. Well, they're looking at April, but she lets Amy know prior to that she probably shouldn't go out and see the body because it's going to be
because she already
heavy.
came up and she's like, oh, and she goes, yeah, you should probably stay back.
And from up in the lounge, our boy Troy is looking. Troy Boy is looking over the balcony, and
boy toy named Troy.
Yeah, Troy boy toy named Troy. He gives his Oscar-worthy performance of looking down and seeing the body and realizing that Angela may not be the kind of artist that he thought she was, and he's like, "You're not an artist. You're a freak. All you people are freaks." I was like, oh my god, okay,
I'm
sir.
like, Troy, the little bitch boy. I mean, technically, Hodgins told him exactly what she does, and he just does not know big words, because boy Troy is a toy.
Yeah. That's his loss, because Angela's a baddie.
Oh, yeah, for sure. She a damn piece.
And Booth comes in the middle of this because he got approved for a search warrant at David Ross's home, and they grab his underwear and he gives it to the gang to see if the pubic hair matches. Mm-hmm. And it's a visual match, but DNA is not going to be available for another 10 days, which doesn't bode well for stopping
they have
the execution.
Less than 30 hours for this execution, so 10 days ain't gonna cut
Not great.
No.
Something that's kind of talked about in this scene is that whether or not they should continue or try harder. Mm-hmm. And Amy's kind of push Booth, like, if you say something...
She is pushing.
She's like, if you say something to the judge, he's gonna listen to you.
Yeah.
And Bones is like, have you changed your mind? And
like,
Booth
she's
is like,
literally considering Booth first. Like, what are you thinking? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think anything's changed.
And the problem that I have with this is, Bones has the right idea. There's some weird things about the evidence, and she's following the evidence to find the truth. Amy is looking for the evidence to align with her belief of what she wants to be true.
Yep.
So the fact that she keeps pushing Booth harder and harder on this...
Because she wants to be right.
And she wants to... I mean, it's noble that she doesn't want Epps to die.
Every relationship ever.
But ultimately, it's this mindset that she has that gets her to where she is at the end of the episode.
Yep.
So they go to the judge to have a conversation, because Booth is like...
agrees to go see the judge.
Yeah, because while Booth still thinks Epps is guilty, he thinks there's doubt, and he doesn't think there should be any doubt. He needs to know, without a doubt, that he made the right arrest that day.
Right.
So now, 20 hours away from the execution, they're in the judge's kitchen, and they're discussing the evidence and how, the DNA won't be ready for 10 days. And the judge relies heavily on Booth's opinion.
Yep.
That if they don't have any clear evidence, he's not granting a stay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I like the judge, to be honest.
Yeah, me
I actually
too.
like his thoughts, like, especially when Amy was just like, how could you dismiss this so easily, blah, blah, blah. And the judge is like, excuse me, I let you exhume this victim's remains. Like, you guys don't have enough to stop the execution. Like, I need evidence. And I'm just like, yeah, shut her up. Shut that mouth.
He seems to be, they characterize him as being pretty fair, and he's not quick to just make these decisions. He really weighs them. He's not doing it just because Amy really, really, really wants Epps to be proven innocent.
Yeah.
He's looking at all parts of it, which I like.
Yeah. Well, it got me to, there was two other things. One of the things is when he asked Bones, like the judge asked Bones, like, what she got. They talk about, like, the gravel, and he's like, that could be any dirt or something, any gravel, whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's not like they can narrow it down or anything.
Well, but they didn't. That's
they didn't,
the thing.
yeah. But I'm talking about, in general, usually most of the time, Hodgins is able to pull through. But in this situation, they didn't.
But even so, maybe it couldn't have been, it didn't have to be that they didn't follow through. It could be that this gravel is just common in a lot of different areas.
It's
so
possible.
It wouldn't have helped.
Yeah, I mean, it was parking lot, so it's probably gravel parking lot,
True.
But the best thing about the scene, though, is the little smirk Booth gives Bones after he threatens the assistant U.S. attorney. Like, it's so cute. It's like a split second. He looks at the guy, threatens him, and because he's saying, like, I don't mind knocking you out in front of the judge. I don't care. But then he looks down at Bones, and he gives her, like, this little smile. And I was just like, that was so cute.
The more I analyze these episodes, and I have the same thoughts about the next episode, the more I just really enjoy David Boreanaz's acting.
Oh, I love his acting.
And just the little breadcrumbs that he leaves in between scenes is just absolutely hilarious and adorable.
It's the way he carries himself, too. It's just so good. Even when in Buffy, I was just like, he carries his character very well. He does. Like, oh my gosh, can I have some of that water?
Please. I'm over here thirsty. I'm parched.
It's okay. We sipping in Sweden, y'all. I told you it was going to happen. We told you. Did we not tell you?
So we take our man into the car with Bones and Amy.
Bones, yeah.
They're there too. They're feeling kind of distraught at what happened. And they kind of talk about, the death penalty. Amy is staunchly against it, and Bones is for it, and Booth is silently driving, not wanting to have a political discussion.
Nope. But, Bones stands her ground, and she talks about why she's for the death penalty, and Amy's like, how could you say that, blah, 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 and Bones is like, I have been through shit.
Yeah. What's crazy to me is, like, Bones to me doesn't seem like a character that would be in favor of the death penalty.
Nope, but based on what she said, it makes a lot of sense when she talks about how she does believe there are certain people who should not be alive based on what she's seen they've done to a lot of victims. Like, it was quite a bit, but as she was doing this, dude, I'm just like, girl, put your seatbelt on, your imaginary seatbelt on in front of this green screen before you end up dead, too. Like, you talking about death penalty, about to be dead.
Have you ever thought about the death penalty and what you think about it?
I do. I remember we talked about it when we were way back in school. You had to do a presentation. On it. And I remember you were very passionate. And I was actually... It made sense. I understood.
You know, and here's the unique thing.
Did you ever change your mind?
I have.
Really?
When I was younger, I was very, very for it.
Yes, you were.
I was very, very
incredibly for it. I was half and half because, you know, the biggest thing that got me was the whole, you know, what if it's the wrong person? That could happen. Yeah. What changed your mind?
Honestly, just kind of looking at my values and seeing that it didn't corroborate with what I believe. So initially my thoughts were like, okay, this person is so evil. And usually my mind would go to serial killers and things like that. People who had just committed the most horrible acts. So when there's practicality, it costs more to keep someone on death row for 20 years. And they may die before they even get executed because of how many appeals they get. Yeah. So, like, the cost on society. And at first my thought was, like, it's not a deterrent because statistics have shown that it doesn't prevent people. My thought was incapacitation. So, basically preventing someone from re-victimizing other people. You know?
Yeah.
But... my thought about it now is that if I think of myself as somebody who believes that all life is inherently valuable and I don't have a place to take someone else's life unless it's in self-defense, then I shouldn't think of it as that even for the most heinous of criminals.
Interesting.
You know?
I'm more along the lines of, like, you know, obviously, I don't really care as much because I'm not the one, you know, doing the execution. But it's like more along the lines of I get that all life is valuable, but at the same time, people are also very capable of great evil. And it's those people that if you are able to catch those people who are capable of that great evil, then yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, if life doesn't kill them first or a third party kills them first, then yeah, I mean, if you think that it's justified to do the death penalty, but at that point, I just feel like it's a lot more work than needed because even if they were in jail, I feel like someone would murder them at that point if they really felt like it.
The main thing for you is it doesn't seem practical.
It's kind of, yeah. Like, I feel like it makes sense, but it's like, at that point, I'm like, if they really did something incredibly bad, you don't think someone would get justice before the law gets to them?
Yeah, jailhouse justice is satisfying. But I think the main thing that changed for me is I don't think that we should be able to
dictate someone's life based on their wrongs.
Yeah. Even though it's...
especially because it's a jury that's deciding your fate.
And I think the thing that sucks is that it doesn't feel like an equal punishment for maybe somebody else taking somebody else's life.
There's a lot of people who think both. Some people will think, like, you know, it's equal because death for a death, eye for an eye. But other people are like, no, I want you to rot in jail. Like, I need you to not see the light of day type of situation.
The thing is I can't believe in an eye for an eye, so I think that's why I changed my mind about it, which is very weird because I was 1,000% for it. I wrote papers and I was very passionate about it, and now I don't think it aligns with all of my other beliefs, so I feel like I need to be consistent.
I think, yeah. I mean, for you it makes sense. For me it's more based on, like, what is the situation? Otherwise, I don't really care as much because it's not like I have the power to do anything about it. But in the grand scheme of things, if I did, what is the situation?
Yeah. I think
I'd want to know the details.
My moral brain and my animal brain. My vengeance brain, maybe, and then my, my moral compass.
Which makes sense.
Is what's fighting at it. But I can't say that I wouldn't find some satisfaction in an evil person. Yeah. Being taken down.
Well, that's kind of cool. You changed your mind, though. It's interesting.
Jinx. Jinx. Personal jinx.
We told y'all we were on the same wavelength. Mm-hmm. I wasn't kidding.
So they,
I feel like death over here. Hello, Death.
Hello, Darkness.
My old friend.
So looking at the bone cracks for particulates, they find little...
Oh, wait. Oh, in the car, did you catch that after Bones was defending the death penalty, Booth gave, like, a little look as, like, because he looked at Amy, but then he looked at Bones. Like, this is after she talked about it, and the girls had their talk. He looked at Amy, but then he looked at Bones, and he gave, like, this kind of look, like a little smile or something. Like, this, he had this look, and I was just like, fangirling.
So are we calling this episode Booth and his fleeting glances?
Booth glances. Whatever. I mean, it's that, and you also have Bones being very emotional in this episode. Did you notice?
Yes,
she's incredibly in her feels. I don't know if it's for whatever reason. Did you ever figure out who was the writers for this one? Because I forgot to look them up.
I can pull it up for you.
You should check it out, because I was just like, dude, she's in her feels, and I don't know if it's because she's still salty. She didn't get approved for her gun in the beginning, so maybe she's just still emotionally, unstable.
So, new writer and director. So, directed by David Jones and written by
another David.
Written by Noah Hawley. So, new names.
David what? David something and Noah Hawley.
David Jones.
Mm-hmm. And Noah Hawley. Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now you can talk about the next scene. That was just something I want to talk about. This is little glances.
So from looking in the bone cracks, they find pollen particles, which help them locate the true crime scene.
Which is wild.
Mm-hmm. They determined that April was killed in a marsh near a chemical plant. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Don't you think it was kind of cool how they blew it up on the angulator, the giant pollen? I'm like, unnecessary, but cool.
But, visually entertaining.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Movie magic. It's lit.
Good stuff. Mm-hmm. So now we move to the interrogation room, where we further learn that Booth has no other interrogation style beyond making accusing statements.
He doesn't.
He has no other tactics.
No, he does not.
Except for painting the story and calling them out.
It's hilarious, dude.
Yeah, I pointed it out to her, and she'll never be the same.
I will not. I was like, yo, you are not wrong. Just like the whole not supposed to read your Miranda rights when you get arrested. It's not
did I mess you up with that?
Every movie I watch, tainted.
I mean, you can do it, but it's just not realistic that you would.
That's what I mean. All these movies, tainted.
Mm-hmm. Actually, it reminds me of the Nancy Drew movie with Emma Roberts.
Oh my gosh, I love that movie.
I think it's the beginning scene where I think Bruce Willis is pretending to be an actor. Mm-hmm. And he's an actor playing an actor. And they're doing a scene from an old 1940s movies where he's arresting somebody and gives them their Miranda rights. Mm-hmm. And then Nancy Drew corrects them, saying that the Miranda rights were not put into law until, was it the 60s? I think so. I think it was the 60s. So she corrects them, saying that for the time period, they'd be inaccurate for giving the Miranda warning.
That's so funny.
And then while I'm watching it, I'm like, and excuse me, Nancy Drew, you would be also inaccurate for providing the Miranda warning upon exact moment of custody.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I mean, she is still in school. She was youngling.
Yeah, but anyways,
but,
that's just what that reminds me of.
She was being a know-it-all.
So, fun tidbit. So, in the interrogation, Booth is doing his thing and trying to get Ross to admit to sleeping with April, and he does
by stating statements.
He said that he just went there to talk, but they had sex and it was her first time and she was upset and ran off. He said he waited there for 2 hours but left after 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah. So when he says, this part just gets me so boiled, obviously for what we talked about before, is he's like, I didn't know it was her first time.
Yo!
Even if it wasn't her first time.
Still, dude.
And I'm saying this with my fist clenched. She was 17. Did he honestly think it wouldn't be a big deal to her, considering the fact that she saw him as a role model, as a mentor? He's her godfather. He didn't think it would be a big deal to her to sleep with her godfather?
I completely forgot that was her godfather, so it makes it even worse, because it's like, dude, you've known her since she was a baby then. So it's like, honey, how many boyfriends did she have? Did you just assume, like, oh yeah, she had 6, blah, blah, blah. It's like, still, doesn't matter whether she was a virgin or not. Like, dude.
He paints himself as a victim. He's like, I shouldn't have got pulled in. I made a mistake. No. No.
You did this to yourself.
You did this.
You went to the dark side. It's your fault. You're fired.
You're fired. He's absolutely fired. 1,000% fired.
Get him out of here. Cancel.
Goodbye. Excuse me, David Ross. We're moving on.
Away.
Moving on.
You know why?
Why?
He has Ross in his name.
He has Ross in his name?
I love Ross and Friends, guys, but he can be incredibly annoying. I'm sorry.
Yeah. When I make my tier list for my favorite Friends characters, he's not at the top.
He's not. I'm sorry, y'all, but no. he ain't. I love Ross in general. He has his moments, don't get me wrong, but he's not at the top of my list.
My favorite thing about Ross is those YouTube videos where people edit clips of Ross having inner monologue, but then removing the audio for the inner monologue.
And you just see his face.
Or when they remove the laugh track. Comedy gold.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. Oh my gosh, those are hilarious, because then it just seems like a horror movie. So
good. Anyways, so we're 4 hours away from Epps'.
4 hours?
Yeah, 4 hours away. Did I say that wrong?
I thought you said 40, so I'm like, hold on, wait, did I hear this wrong? I'm just going to say 4 hours just in case you said 40.
I'm pretty sure I said 4 hours. Okay. But let's be honest here. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible
if you just believe. So 4 hours away from Epps' execution. We're on the countdown.
Beep.
They clue in Booth's boss on the information they have so far, and they're requesting permission to search in the new location for the murder weapon, some equipment, and some extra hands to help look for the murder weapon.
Yeah.
And they're granted it, as long as Bones doesn't get a gun.
He could have just said no. He didn't have to say yes. But, you know, the next scene, it's like, okay, I guess it had to happen. Whatever.
So now we go to the location. They're searching everywhere. They clue in the squints that, they got permission. The squints are using the tech to help them find the exact location of the murder weapon. So the FBI, Bones, and Booth arrive at the marsh. They're using GPR and metal detectors. Yep. We don't know what GPR stands for.
But I know what it looks like.
I should have looked it up beforehand. I'm a failure.
It's okay. We saw what it looks like. If you watch the episode, you know exactly what it looks like. It looks like a lawnmower.
Exactly. My idea of it is I think it, somehow it's able to see through the dirt.
I think it sees the different levels of the dirt to see, if there's something, there's what is it? Like a unstable amount of ground, I guess is my words. It's not right words, but along those lines.
Yeah. So they're hoping to find the tire iron, and they do very easily. Watching the actors conduct this search is really funny because you see some of them, like, picking up and looking under leaves.
Yes, I thought of that too. Like, yo, what you think was under that leaf?
I don't know, man. And then when they find the tire iron, it's like they just brush some dirt away from it. And they're like, we got it. So they also, using the GPR, they find 2 additional bodies that have been dead for at least 5 years, but very well could easily come from when Howard Epps was free.
But this is after Bones is about to yell for a shovel, but Booth is like, no, I'm yelling for the shovel.
Let him yell for a shovel.
I was like, all right, you want to yell for a shovel? But she gets mad. You see her eye rolls like, yo, I could have yelled for the shovel. Like, bruh.
Mm-hmm. So now that they found these 2 bodies, they've essentially determined that Howard Epps is a serial killer.
Yeah, and he plotted that. So you can obviously see how Booth and Bones are distraught because Booth is like, I can make this call. Or I could wait 30 minutes and then Epps will be dead. And we don't have to deal with this.
But Bones is like, these new victims need just as much justice.
Yeah, because if he makes the call, that means Epps does not get executed and he gets, stand trial for the other 2 murders? Mm-hmm. So it means he lives longer.
Yeah. Ultimately, it sucks.
Yup.
You know, but
they got played, yo.
They got played, but those girls, like, their families get to know what happened to them now.
They're around the same age, too, as April, and they got killed the exact same way that she did, so it was similar.
Yes. So then they go confront Mr. Howard Epps. He kind of does his little reveal, showing his true colors, going from the timid southern scapegoat, sad boy, to the conniving evil sociopath that he is. So he reveals that he read Bones's book and kind of orchestrated the whole event to specifically have Bones on the case.
Yeah.
And he reaches out to shake Bones' hand, and she breaks it.
Which is lit. And that's when she's like, you know what, maybe I don't need a gun. And Booth is like, I'll give you mine. Like, hell. But, okay, my question, because maybe you know this, Pig, is like, Epps wants to keep using Amy because he's like, it looks like I got the right lawyer. And I'm like, it doesn't seem like she wants to be his lawyer anymore. Does she have to keep working for him?
She does not.
Oh.
If she feels a conflict of interest or feels like she cannot be his counsel, she doesn't have to be. Even though she's a public defender, they could assign someone else to the case. But he would need a defense attorney in general.
Oh, okay. Well,
or unless he decides to go pro se and defend himself.
Oh, wonderful. So, sounds like a Ted Bundy? Yep.
So yeah. Defense attorneys have a really hard job. And I think a lot of the times people... So we have an adversarial court system, right? The idea is that we've got the 2 sides duking it out because that competition is going to hopefully lead to people really trying hard and looking for the best evidence. That's the idea. That's the hope.
Right.
And so when people think of defense attorneys, they're like, how could you be a defense attorney even when you know your person is guilty? Well, it's like the defense attorney's sole goal is not to prove someone's innocence or to keep someone from being convicted of a crime. Their main goal, their sole purpose, is to make sure the rights of the defendant aren't violated.
Look at that. Myths are being debunked right now.
Yes. So obviously, if, the attorney and their client believe that they're innocent, of course they're going to try to prove their innocence. But the main goal, the top priority, is to make sure the defendant's rights aren't violated.
Yeah, so that way they don't get stomped all over.
Yeah. So defense attorneys are super important. Because even if someone is guilty of a crime, their rights still should not be violated.
Yeah. Thanks, Wikipedia.
You're welcome. You're welcome. They're important jobs, and
it's a hard job.
It's a hard
they're
job.
Always misinterpreted.
And sometimes they can be difficult, especially if the person
is difficult.
has actually done a heinous crime, and maybe they don't get the sentence they deserve, but ultimately the need for them is there.
Yeah.
But also, Bones breaking Epps's hand was really satisfying.
I was about to say, that was incredibly satisfying.
It's an iconic moment.
He's trying to shake her hand, and she just goes, bam!
Breaks it.
Break that hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what was it she said? Are you going to charge me or arrest me or something? He
right.
goes, and Booth is like, look, that looked like self-defense to me.
I mean, technically, they could say that. But you like how the CO in the background didn't even move an inch?
He didn't do shit.
He did not flinch.
He was literally just sitting there.
It's like, oops.
I was like, dude, that's it? You just gonna sit there and do that? All right.
I mean, more common than you think.
Yeah.
So,
we're not gonna go there.
So then they go, Bones and Booth, obviously, they go to Wong Fu's to hang out. And they kind
are
of
incredibly bummed out right now.
Oh. They kind of have a existential conversation about life and death and the weight of taking someone's life.
Yeah. And, you obviously see also Bones talks about how important Booth's thoughts are and how she validates how he feels and how what he feels is important. Like, because she gives, again with the looks, he gives her this look because she talks about how much she respects him even when he has doubt. She respected his beliefs, his thoughts. And he just looks at her. Just smiles, and I'm just like, you in love with her already.
Yeah.
And
they are.
We need to sit in our life, just going to a place. They literally could just be like, I know what you want today. Let me get that for you. Like, never been to a place before and just walk in. I need this in my life.
Honestly, it would be my favorite restaurant.
So much business, yo.
And see,
so much business.
They could still be diverse because he gave Booth pie.
He gave him apple pie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a cup of Joe.
So they could have kept it. See?
They could have. Maybe Sid didn't want to be in the show no more.
Maybe.
Maybe they didn't have the budget for him anymore.
Maybe.
It'd be like that.
True. So...
All right. Now, I guess that was the end of our commentary section of this episode.
I hope we were entertaining enough, because I know there wasn't too much going on in the personal lives, and there were some really funny moments.
It was so fact-based, though, y'all. Like, so much evidence. It was, I wouldn't say fact, evidence-based.
Yes.
Evidence-heavy.
It's basically a Forensic Files episode.
Yeah, but in, like, movie magic form. Well, Forensic Files do have their movie magic moments with their reenactments.
I love their reenactments.
Me too. They have me dying. But yeah. Well, let's move on.
Are you ready?
I guess so.
The following program contains themes and images that may not be suitable for most audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to our true crime segment.
I do have a PowerPoint for this one.
Oh, okay. Hold on. You're going to hear a couple clicking.
Episode 7.
Clicking. Where is it?
It's in the episode 7 folder.
Okay. You see, like, how we're so organized? Okay, episode 7.
Oh, I see you're here.
Oh, you see me?
I see you.
I'm scared. Why do you see me?
I can see that you're here with me.
Okay. All right, so what's going on? Let's go.
So
our true crime segment.
I'm going to tell you ahead of time. I'm not necessarily telling this case in chronological order because there are a lot of elements to it.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Please let me know if you get confused along the way. I've tried my best to make it the least confusing. But I will try to let you know timelines and what's going on.
I'll try to see if my brain will work right now.
Okay, so continually stop me when you need me to stop.
Oh, you know I will.
Okay.
Is that you? Is that you? I see you. Or in Google Drive, guys, so we can see each other.
Yeah, see, I told you I saw you. You're here with me.
You're here.
Alrighty. Are you ready?
Let me move this real quick. I want to make sure. Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. So, today I'm going to tell you about the murders of Jerry Hillard and Marilyn Green.
Oh, okay. Let's
Alrighty.
do it. How old are they?
So, about 1 a.m. on August 15th, 1982, the police are called to the pool in Washington Park on the south side of Chicago. The scene was 2 teenagers had been shot.
So they're teenagers. Mm-hmm. How old? Like 16? It just says
18
teenagers.
and 19.
Okay, 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So upon arrival, a teenage female holding her bleeding neck runs out the gate past Chicago officers at Anderson and Liache. Another officer, Officer Johnson, pulls up to the scene as well, and the female runs past them, and the Officer Johnson puts her in his car to go to the hospital.
This is Marilyn Green as the teenager?
Yes.
Okay, she's a female. All right.
They, the other officers, Officer Liache and Officer Anderson, they run south behind the bleachers, and they see a man fleeing the area. They searched him, but found no weapon, and they let him go.
Okay.
So Officer Dwyer, a fourth officer, he enters the pool area, and he sees in the bleachers a teenage male, Jerry Hillard, laying there shot.
Yikes.
He asks 2 of the witnesses there to help him carry down Jerry to be transported to the hospital.
So he was still alive, or was he dead at that point?
Both of them were still alive.
Okay, so they were just dying.
Okay.
Once
they got to the hospital, they died of their injuries.
Dang.
Jerry and Marilyn were engaged.
What?
Okay.
That's so sad.
So I'm not gonna explain the evidence first. I'll give you the public's perspective of kind of what happens next.
Okay.
And then we'll get into it. Okay.
Right.
So warrant is issued for the arrest of a man named Anthony Porter. Officer Liache.
Is that this next dude that I see in the slideshow?
Yes. Officer Liache identifies Anthony Porter as the man that he and Officer Anderson stopped behind the bleachers.
I'm surprised they let him go if he was the only one they saw. You would think they'd take him, but because I guess they didn't have anything.
So this true crime segment is heavily based off a documentary that I watched.
Okay.
And I watched it with my sister, and we both had the exact same thought that you did. Why let him go just because he wasn't carrying a gun? It's very easy to toss a gun away from your hand.
I just assumed, if he was around, whoever is around and running around, you would think, just take him in, just to question them to see what they saw or something,
Exactly.
Okay.
So, in 1983, 27-year-old Anthony Porter is convicted and sentenced to death for the murders of Jerry and Marilyn.
He's 19?
27.
Oh, he's 27.
It was in 1983, so the following year.
Okay, so he's 27 years old. Why did he kill them? Okay.
Yeah, so I'll let you know when you go to the next slide, but not yet.
Okay, so we're...
So now, after exhausting all of his appeals, his execution date is set for September 23rd, 1998.
Okay.
So this is 16 years later, I believe.
Interesting, okay.
So at this point, pro bono attorneys, meaning that they're doing this for free, they had Anthony Porter's IQ tested, and it came out to be 51.
What is that on the IQ thing?
So on the IQ scale, it's considered to be extremely low. I think under 60 is really low.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, 60, to kind of give you a point of reference, the average person, and I'm not looking at exact stats here, but I'm thinking they're probably like in the 90s, low hundreds. Mm-hmm. And then for some perspective, like Forrest Gump, he was considered to have, even though he's a fictional character, he was considered to have IQ in like the 70s. Yeah. So that's kind of a perspective of how low his IQ was.
Okay, that makes sense. All right.
So if you remember, as we talked, we referenced The Man and the Bear a lot in this episode. So in the episode...
that one was just so vivid, man. It was a good episode.
In that episode, we talked about also the murder of Renee Hartfelt by Issei Sagawa.
That was the cannibal episode, guys.
And we talked about how you need to be considered mentally sound in different degrees to stand trial and be convicted of certain crimes.
Right.
So since Anthony Porter was already convicted of the crime, and it was still legal at this time to execute someone who was considered to have a diminished capacity, right. Technically, the fact that his IQ was 51 doesn't really mean anything. But his legal team was trying to argue that his diminished capacity meant that he was incapable of understanding the punishment that he was about to have.
But so he literally, if he was the one who killed them, then obviously he knows what he did.
So
that's if he did it.
So this is about 50 hours before the execution. A stay of execution is granted by the Illinois Supreme Court.
Okay.
So, if you turn to the next slide.
What does it have to do with this one that I'm looking at? The Northwestern University one? What does it have to do with it?
You know what? I'm about to tell you.
Oh. So now you wanted me to click on it. I had been on it. I don't know what it's about.
Girl, I told you I would let you know when you can move on to the next one.
Your little icon.
Don't follow me. Don't follow my icon. Follow my voice.
Whatever.
Good God, woman. Follow directions. I said I will tell you when to move to the next slide. Not I will show you.
Anthony Porter, okay. Okay. I'm here.
So
I'm with you now.
Alrighty. So, professor, author, and leader of the Northwestern University's Innocence Project, David Protest, took this opportunity to have his journalism students take another look at the case. So Protest was an accomplished individual. He had also worked in a similar way on a case called the Ford Heights 4, where he was a part of having an innocent man exonerated from his crimes.
Interesting.
So he has his students go to the crime scene and reenact the crime. What they found was that the lead witness, William Taylor, could not have seen Anthony Porter shoot Jerry Hillard and Marilyn Green from where he was standing.
Interesting.
They recorded William Taylor recanting his testimony. And the word recant means like to take back. Mm-hmm. So they have a recording of William Taylor recanting his testimony. They also have a videotaped recording of an individual named Inez Jackson stating that she was a witness to the crime and that the murder was actually committed by her ex-husband, Alstory Simon.
What is going on?
They also have a video from Alstory Simon confessing to the murders.
What?
So, 2 days later, after his execution is stayed, Anthony Porter is released on September 21st, 1999, from prison.
That's good. Because if he didn't do it, that's good.
Yeah. So if you turn to the next slide, you will see the three individuals. William Taylor, Inez Jackson, and Alstory Simon.
Okay.
So these images are screenshotted from their videos of reading their statements.
Okay.
Alrighty. Now, the world was really taken by this story. And it was kind of, like there was a lot of press about it, lots of videos of Anthony Porter being released.
Did people feel like they speculated this whole thing? They're like,
No, people were excited. People were very happy. Someone who was innocent has been released, and the real person is going to get convicted.
Even though they don't know which one it is.
But this wasn't what meets the eye. So the students' objective was to find evidence to free Anthony Porter. In 1999, when the students did the reenactment, concluding that William Taylor's testimony was wrong, that his view was obstructed and he wouldn't have been able to see the crime take place,
Right.
they said that the murder took place in the corner of the bleachers. But according to the police report and the crime scene photos, that isn't where the murder took place.
Yo, who messed with the evidence?
And the fence that supposedly would have obstructed his view didn't exist in 1982.
What?
They also claimed that William Taylor was the only witness and that him recanting his statement meant there was no evidence against Anthony Porter.
What?
But William Taylor wasn't the only witness. He was one of 7 witnesses.
Yo, what is going on? Why everybody lying? Why you all lying?
If you go to the next slide, you can see a representation of the exact bleachers. Okay. So the picture in the bottom corner is what they look like today. Okay?
Bottom right?
Yes. The picture in the top left corner shows a little arrow to where the crime scene happened, and the second body that doesn't have a label over it is where the students say the crime took place.
What the heck?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty far away.
So, here are the facts of the case that I previously withheld from you.
How dare they?
When Marilyn Green was shot, she held her hand up to block her face, and the gunshot went through her hand into her neck.
Ah!
And that's why she was holding it bleeding when she ran out.
Yikes.
The investigators thought it was an attempted robbery because her necklace was found on the ground.
But really, it probably just broke off when she got shot in the neck.
And Jerry Hillard was shot in the head.
Ouch.
A total of 5 shots were fired.
On his head?
In total for both Marilyn and Jerry.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about the witnesses.
Oh, God.
So these witnesses were a part of the evidence in the original case against Anthony Porter, which for some reason were completely dismissed by the Northwestern University students when they reinvestigated the case.
Wait, why'd they dismiss it? They're literally the ones who are like, oh, we know stuff. What?
Well, let me tell you about the witnesses, okay?
Okay.
So in 1982, when the murder took place, the investigators initially had 2 witnesses, William Taylor and Henry Williams. Henry Williams,
Who the hell's Henry Williams?
By the time that they reinvestigated the case, Henry Williams had passed away.
Oh, dang.
But they were each taken, at the time of the crime, they were each taken to the crime scene independently to reenact the crime. Both say they saw Marilyn Green and her fiancé Jerry Hillard sitting in the bleachers. So, I can't remember the name of the festival or the celebration, but it was a celebration that day in the community. There was a bunch of floats and things like that. Was it in February? No, it was in August. So it was in August, and everybody went to the local pool that night. Like, obviously it was closed to the public, but a bunch of kids, they hopped the fence to go swimming. And the cops said, like, they're not going to go and get anybody for trespassing. They're just going swimming.
Right.
So that's what Henry Williams and William Taylor went to do. By the way, this is very confusing because their first name and last names are interchangeable. So I'll do my best not to get them mixed up.
I just realized, William Taylor, Henry Williams.
Yeah. So they go swimming, and when Henry Williams is about to get in the pool, Anthony Porter approaches him from behind and puts a gun to his head.
What?
To rob him of whatever money he's got. And he's only got $2, so he gives it to Anthony Porter.
Okay.
Anthony Porter walks away with another man to go sit in the bleachers next to Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard.
Okay.
So William Taylor initially said that he saw the shooting but didn't know the offender initially. But he later admitted that he had hopped out of the pool, turned to the bleachers, and saw Anthony Porter pointing a gun to kill Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard.
What?
And seeing Porter run to the back stairs. So
what?
William Taylor and Henry Williams said they hopped the fence and ran away because they were scared.
But why would William Taylor say he did it?
No, William Taylor said he saw Anthony Porter shoot.
No, I'm talking about before.
Because they were scared of Anthony Porter.
So that's why that's why he admitted to doing it before?
So, no, William Taylor...
Yeah, I'm talking about when you told me about, like, the William Taylor, Inez Jackson, and...
No, that's Alstory Simon. So, William Taylor initially So, at this point, this is in 1982. He hasn't recanted his testimony yet.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So, initially, he didn't come forward with his full testimony. Initially, he said, hey, I saw the shooting, but I don't know the dude who did it. Because he was scared. Then,
okay.
So then the police are talking to him, and Henry Williams kind of, encourages them to tell the truth. And they admit that, yeah, they both saw it was Anthony Porter. Because William Taylor had seen, I can't remember if it was earlier in the week or earlier that year, but he had seen Anthony Porter rob elderly people. And he was scared for the safety of his grandmother. So,
I feel bad for the grandma, too.
So that's why he didn't say anything at first.
Okay.
So I won't go through what each witness saw, but all of them basically saw the same thing.
Okay.
There were a total of 7 witnesses at this time. Kenneth Edwards, Michael Woodfork, Eugene Beckwith, William Taylor, Henry Williams, Mark Sr., and Officer Anthony Liace, because he saw Anthony Porter fleeing.
Okay. I was about to say, an officer saw, yo.
In 2006, so this is a bit of a time jump, but a new witness came forward, and that was Ray Brown. At the time of the shooting, he was 13, and for the same reasons, he didn't say anything. He was scared. But later on...
13 years old.
Right. And later on, he did come forward. So all the people who were there that night went to the pool to hang out, went to swim, but they all corroborated the same story. That they saw Anthony Porter in the bleachers stand up and shoot Jerry Hillard and Marilyn Green. Okay. So
this is why he got arrested in the first place.
Yes. From all of that witness testimony, besides, I think, Kenneth Edwards and Ray Brown, because their testimonies came out years later, but based on those witness statements, that is why Anthony Porter was arrested.
Wow.
That's all in the original report. It's all the original information. Now, your question was, why the heck did the Northwestern students ignore all of this evidence? So... the Northwestern students obviously
didn't... It makes sense now, considering this is the reason why he got arrested in the first place.
So they didn't talk to any of the other witnesses. Their defense was saying that, it was too dark for the witness to have seen everything, or we didn't know there was other witnesses. David Protest says, that they obviously didn't look at them at all. But it's later on that we'll kind of get more clarification.
Okay.
So if William Taylor saw Anthony Porter shoot them, why would he recant his statement in 1999? Right? Because they've got a video of him admitting that that's not what happened. Well, if you go to, the next slide was the list of the names of the witnesses. And if you go to the slide, no, stay on that slide. Don't go to the next slide. Okay. You can go back to the slide of the Northwestern students.
Okay.
So if you look on there, there's a man named Paul Cialino. So he is a private detective,
Italian.
private investigator that was assisting. Yes, that was assisting the Northwestern students and the professor on the case. Mm-hmm. So he and one of the university students went to William Taylor's apartment to speak with him. And they told William Taylor that it's for the greater good for him to admit that he was wrong about his statement. Cialino provided William Taylor an affidavit, which is a sworn statement, pre-written out, a new statement, and basically manipulated William Taylor to sign it. Like, they pretty much harassed him.
Dang!
They said...
y'all some savage students, yo.
Basically, it was mostly the PI strong-arming, but basically they were saying, like, this man is gonna die because you lied, or things like that. So he's scared, and he wants them to leave him alone. He just wants this to end, so he's like, okay, fine.
I'll sign it, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And they videotape it.
Okay.
The students even spoke to Marilyn Green's mother, and they told her that they were looking at a new suspect. So they're covering all these areas.
Okay. They sound savage as hell.
Mm-hmm. So David protests, and 2 of the female students drive to Milwaukee from Chicago. Okay.
I said he protested, and I was like, what? Then I realized his last name is Protest.
Another David.
Another David. Here we go again.
So, they knock on the door of Alstory Simon. So, they say that his name popped up in an investigation that they're working on, and they wanted to ask him about the victims. Mm-hmm. He said he didn't know anything about their deaths, and they talked for like 5 minutes. When the girls were leaving and Simon was walking them out, David Protest got out of the SUV, so he wasn't with them when they were talking to Simon. He gets out of the SUV on the girls' way out, and he walks towards Simon, thanks him, gives him his business card, and tells him that an innocent man is going to die for what Alstory Simon did, and says he knows that Alstory Simon killed those victims.
Yo!
The students and David Protest talked to Inez Jackson, Alstory Simon's ex-wife.
Okay.
They bought her groceries and a space heater.
Of course they did.
They videotaped her testimony.
They buttered her up.
Mm-hmm. She said that Hillard, Jerry Hillard, one of the victims, was a fellow gang member of her ex-husband, Alstory Simon, and that they argued over money. She said she heard 2 gunshots. Later, when the police questioned her, she didn't have the right details. She couldn't remember how many shots. She couldn't remember who was there.
It's because they didn't butter her up.
Mm-hmm. So all of that happened in 1999. So before he was released, they got this information.
Okay.
So now, how in the heck did they get Alstory Simon to admit to killing Jerry Hillard and Marilyn Green? So one night, Simon is high on cocaine, and someone knocked on his door at 6:30 in the morning. It was Paul Cialino and this other guy named Reed.
Okay.
So they've got weapons and a tripod.
They're
claiming to be police from Chicago. They push Simon back into his house. Cialino's standing over him with a Reed, like walking room to room to see if anybody's there.
That doesn't help considering he is high out of his mind.
He is high on cocaine. So Cialino says he knows that Simon committed the murders. He shows Simon this video of a man providing testimony and making allegations against Alstory Simon. Cialino turns on the TV, and David Protest is on TV talking about how they figured out that Alstory Simon's the real killer and everything like that.
Okay.
So, and they show Alstory Simon Inez Jackson's video saying that Alstory Simon committed the murders.
Is this part of the whole getup because he's high and they have that footage? Or is it real that he's actually on TV and this is happening?
So this is real. Okay. So they actually got the video of Inez Jackson. David Protest was actually on TV. Jeez. And Alstory Simon was high on cocaine, but that wasn't the doing of Paul Ciolino. That was his own addiction issues.
Yeah.
So Ciolino says they have evidence to put Alstory Simon on death row.
Yo.
Ciolino then admits that he's not a cop, but that they're private investigators. And he tells Simon that all they want to do is stop the execution of Anthony Porter. And Alstory Simon only has a half an hour to say that he committed the murders in self-defense. They tell Simon he's going to be paid off, he's never going to work again, and so
What the heck?
Alstory Simon is sitting there, and Paul Ciolino puts his hand on his gun, kind of in a threatening way. Mm-hmm. And Alstory Simon goes to reach for the phone, but gets blocked by Arnold Reed, the other investigator.
Yeah.
And Arnold Reed pulls out his gun to Alstory Simon. And Ciolino tells Alstory Simon that if he cooperates, he's guaranteed millions of dollars in movies and book deals, right?
What the heck?
So Ciolino writes this affidavit, remember, a sworn statement for Alstory Simon, and they rehearse it and rehearse it and rehearse it because Alstory Simon is freaking high.
Yeah, so he has no...
So they're rehearsing it. And then finally they record it.
Is this even legal? He's high.
So
the heck?
And in the tape, when you look at it, Alstory Simon's basically looking down the whole time because he's got the paper right next to him for reference because he's so high he can't remember it off the top of his head.
Right.
Right. So this is absolutely not legal.
Thank you. I was going to say, this does not sound
first
legal.
First of all, they're threatening him.
He's literally under the influence. He's vulnerable.
And they're not police officers. They're private investigators. So this video that they take of Alstory Simon, it goes straight to the news outlets. It doesn't go to the police.
Yo.
And after the video is broadcasted, the state's attorneys make moves to release Anthony Porter without ever even having the tapes in their possession.
They just decide, hey, we
to release
saw this
him
on TV.
From seeing it on TV.
As seen on TV, guys.
That, you just don't understand how bananas that is.
Wow.
That it's released without the U.S. attorneys even authenticating the video at all.
What?
They make moves to release him.
What?
So Paul Ciolino promises Simon he's going to have the best defense attorney, okay?
Okay.
So he gets him Jack Rimland, who actually turns out to be a buddy of Paul Ciolino. So Rimland tells Simon that the evidence against him is super strong. And he even lies to him, telling him that Alstory Simon is also a suspect in a murder case in Milwaukee.
Is that real, though?
No.
Yo!
He's lying. He's straight up lying.
On?
He encourages Alstory Simon to provide an apology to Marilyn Green's mother, Marilyn Green, the victim, in an email. So, he even writes him in an email to tell him to apologize to Marilyn Green's mom. Alstory Simon tells him the whole deal. He tells him that he's innocent and everything. And this is how Rimland is operating.
What the heck?
So after Simon is convicted in 1999, which typically, all the time, when you're convicted and sentenced to death, you have almost unlimited appeals. So after he's convicted, he gets a formal letter from Rimland saying that their professional relationship is over. So this defense attorney gets Alstory Simon convicted and then says, yo, we need to break up.
Yo, what? Mm-hmm. But he didn't do it.
He did not do it. So
what the heck?
Paul Ciolino, he even admits, on TV that he, quote-unquote, bull rushed the confession and used harsh tactics.
Yeah, you did. That's an understatement, bro.
And kind of another time jump for Inez Jackson. In 2005, she admitted on video that she lied.
Yeah, of course she did. She got buttered up.
She said that David Protest promised that there would be books written and a movie. She died shortly after she made that confession. She didn't want to go to her deathbed having lied. Mm-hmm. So it turns out David Protest kind of has a history of doing this. This sort of thing that he does. And
come on, Professor, what are you doing, yo?
So here's where we get to the kind of some crazy stuff. So
this wasn't already crazy?
Oh, it gets more crazy. So
no.
So remember, Anthony Porter gets released and he's going to die in 1999, okay?
Okay.
So in 1998, the year before, and remember, David Protest says that he used Anthony Porter's stay of execution as an opportunity for his students. Mm-hmm. Well, in 1998, the year before, there are emails between David Protest and Paul Cialino telling him to find the guy that they were certain was the killer.
What?
So basically, this stuff is starting a whole year before. And you remember when Alstory Simon was being bull rushed into confessing, how they showed him the video of the man providing the allegations against him? That was an actor.
That's messed up,
Not
dude.
even a real person.
That's so messed. This man has been done so dirty.
The same year, 1998...
Don't do drugs, kids.
The Northwestern students met with Anthony Porter in prison. Okay? So after speaking with David Protest, Anthony Porter sets up this conspiracy. So you can go to the next page, the next slide now, okay? Okay. So you can kind of see all the players. So you've got David Protest, Anthony Porter. They talk. He sets up a conspiracy from prison with this man named Walter Jackson. So Anthony Porter saved Walter Jackson from getting shanked on the playground in prison. Walter Jackson is Inez Jackson's nephew. Okay? So Anthony Porter and Walter Jackson team up. Walter Jackson tells his aunt Inez to frame Alstory Simon for the murder. And if she does, that Walter Jackson and her son, Sonny Jackson, will get help to be released from prison by David Protest.
What?
Mm-hmm. And the affidavit, remember when Alstory Simon was being pushed to confess, how he had him sign the affidavit? The affidavit was word for word from Walter Jackson's fake testimony.
This is so messed up.
So, to understand how this even happened, so 1999, right? Gosh. When this is all come out, right? So, this is after the videos have been made from Inez Jackson, Alstory Simon, William Taylor, and after they've made moves to have Anthony Porter released, they pull a grand jury to review all of the evidence. Okay? Right. So the first grand jury is just purely a review. They explicitly tell the jury that they're not moving to make an indictment against Simon, but they're only helping the prosecution to look at the evidence and re-review it based on everything that's come out, right? Okay. So they're looking at everything. They're hearing from all of the witnesses, and this is 1999, okay? Okay. So they're hearing from all of the witnesses, all the information, right? And this is before Alstory Simon is ever convicted of anything. So we're kind of in a between period. And it's very clear that the Northwestern students have no case. Like, they didn't look at all the witnesses, they botched the reenactment, clearly it's messed up. So basically, useless. Yeah, so basically the grand jury determines that the police were right, that Anthony Porter did commit the crime. So, and this went on for over a month. The grand jury was held for a month. So once that grand jury convenes, remember, they didn't make moves to convict Alstory Simon. They hold a second grand jury, okay? Mm-hmm. The following month. And these are completely different jurors. And they are presented with only a fraction of the evidence in a single afternoon.
What?
And they heard none of the original witnesses. They didn't hear anything about the Northwestern students or David Protest and their sketchiness. They didn't hear anything about the skepticism of the new testimonies. And
so what did they get?
So they got frickin' scraps. And based on that grand jury, they indicted Alstory Simon.
What?
And that's how he was convicted of the crime, even though as far back as 1999, they knew Anthony Porter did it. So, so there are kind of some fallbacks here of why this happened. So you remember when Alstory Simon's confession video came out and the state's attorney's office immediately made moves to have Porter released. Mm-hmm. Well, clearly they jumped the gun, right?
Yes.
And there's some contention between the attorneys as to whether or not it was a political decision that they just had to move quickly and save face, or that they just believed that they were wrong. Like, there's no clear answer from the state's attorney's office. Mm-hmm. But clearly, this happening, I believe, is their fault. Okay?
Right.
So, Alstory Simon gets 37 years in prison.
Oof.
So, and you remember when he gets convicted, Rimlin is his attorney, and Rimlin's like, no, dude, I got your back. 37 years is great. You could have been put on death row, blah, blah, blah. So, to understand false confessions, it's such a difficult thing to imagine, because you can't imagine admitting to something you didn't do. Mm-hmm. But there are so many elements at play that could lead to a false confession, and Alstory Simon's situation almost checks off every single box, because he was high, so he was paranoid. And could you imagine, you're high on cocaine, and two strangers come in your house, and they start showing you videos of people saying that you absolutely committed a murder. Mm-hmm. Right? That sounds
they just
like...
bombard you with all this information.
That sounds like an episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So...
Incredibly.
And he thinks that, okay, this is the best thing that's going to happen to me. They're going to give me money. I'm going to be okay. You know, blah, blah, blah. Well, once Simon reads the transcripts, mm-hmm. he sees that the evidence against him was barely anything. So this whole time he's been told that his conviction's a sure thing. Like, this evidence is so strong. And he sees that he was totally duped. So he files his own motion for appeal in 2001. Mm-hmm.
How many years has he been in jail at this point?
At this point, he'd only been in jail for 3.
Okay.
And he filed his own motion and said that he was innocent and he was coerced. But his petition was denied.
Dang.
He got a new attorney, filed a new petition, denied. Okay?
He's not getting a break.
So here's kind of the aftermath, okay?
Okay.
So 2011, David Protest gets suspended from the university.
No.
Because he was altering archived emails.
Bro. Mm-hmm. What are you doing, man? You're a professor. Stop
right.
putting your foot where it's not supposed to go.
So he has since formed his own Chicago Innocence Project, right? Mm-hmm. So in 2013, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office reopened the case. And the following year, in 2014, they vacated the charges against Alstory Simon. So he's free to go. Mm-hmm. And in the documentary, you see them taking him out to dinner.
He's been in jail at how many years at this point?
15 years and 8 months for a crime he didn't commit.
That's insane.
That they knew he didn't commit in 1999.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. And now you're probably wondering, how come Protest and Cialino are not arrested?
I'm also wondering what's happened to Anthony Porter.
I'll get there.
Okay.
So by the time of 2014, for any crimes that they could have been charged with, the statute of limitations had already passed. And the statute of limitations means that there are certain crimes that if committed a certain period of time ago, you cannot be convicted of that crime.
What?
So, Alstory Simon filed a lawsuit against the Northwestern University's Innocence Project in 2015.
This is after he got out?
After he got out, and he was awarded a settlement in 2018. So good for him.
That's good.
Now your last question. What happened to Anthony Porter? Well, my dear, I must regretfully inform you about double jeopardy.
Oh, no.
What double jeopardy means is that you cannot be tried for the same crime twice. So because Anthony Porter was tried once, convicted, and then exonerated, he cannot be tried for the same crime again.
What? Is that seriously real?
That is 1,000% real, my dear.
Come on, America.
So, double jeopardy is a good thing, even though in this case it sucks.
Because he did it again, didn't he?
No.
Oh.
No, he didn't do it. Well, I don't know what he did with the rest of his life, to be honest.
Oh.
But double jeopardy is a good thing as long as the government is doing their job, which we know they don't do all the time. So it prevents you from being basically harassed by the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
You know, if you really didn't commit a crime, like basically without double jeopardy, they could just get constant do-overs. And you could be in court for the rest of your life.
Which that makes sense.
So it's in place to protect the individual, but the problem here is that the state's attorney's office didn't do their freaking job and followed zero protocols. Like, they basically could have, they released him on false grounds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you've heard kind of about the crimes of that's happened here, okay?
Yeah.
Crazy.
All kinds of crimes.
Now let me tell you the biggest crime of this whole story.
I don't even know what's the biggest crime at this point. That's a lot of crimes.
The biggest crime of this whole story is that it completely forgets about Jerry Hillard and Marilyn Green.
Yeah?
They are completely lost in this. And while researching this case, I kind of almost cried. Because as you know, what I like to do is I like to kind of look up about personal things about the victims.
Yeah.
To kind of give some backstory and different stuff about them.
Mm-hmm.
And the only information I know about Jerry Hillard is that he was 18 or 19 years old.
Seriously?
I know nothing else. That picture you saw first, I
That's
don't even
half
know
of his face.
I don't even know if that is Jerry Hillard.
Dang.
From watching the documentary, they didn't explicitly say any pictures of who was Jerry Hillard. That picture of Marilyn Green is Marilyn Green. When you go on Google and you search the names Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard, there is zero pictures of them.
That's so sad.
The only pictures are of the Northwestern students, Anthony Porter and Alstory Simon, or even Inez Jackson. Not a single photo of them. If you search faces of Jerry Hillard and Marilyn Green, not a single photo. The most information that I have about Marilyn Green is a single line from the documentary that said she was a mother of 2.
And we don't even know what happened to those 2 kids.
The only other information I have of Marilyn Green is on the last slide, which is from her grave. That just says some basic bio information. That she was born August 23rd, 1962. That she died at the age of 19 on August 15th, 1982. That her father was Andrew Davis and her mother was Ophelia Green. And that she's currently laid to rest at the at the Oak Ridge Cemetery.
That's it?
That is all that I know. Now,
they never really got justice either, which really sucks.
They get zero justice.
Everyone got selfish and started focusing on everything else.
There's this one article that has the same sentiments. When I was researching this case, 4 hours I was trying to use the Wayback Machine. I was trying to change whatever. I could not find an obituary, nothing.
That's so sad.
I was getting creative. So
as you do.
There's this one article by Peter V. Bella called Justice for Alstory Simon, No Justice for Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard. It was written October 30th, 2014. And there's just some lines from this that, like, I feel are really powerful.
What were the lines?
Okay. So one is, left out of the story, except in passing, are Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard. They are 2 people who were murdered in 1982. No one is speaking for them. They have no news media cheerleaders. Academics are not coming out of the ivy to speak for them, like they did for David Protest when he was discredited. Powerful progressives are silent. They are dead. It is as if they never existed. They do not count or matter in the running narrative of a train wreck. Lost in all the publicity were Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard. No one made a name for them. No school gained renown on their account. No reporters wrote about them or mentioned them on television. Protest, Porter, and Simon got all the ink and pixels.
Wow.
So that's I cried when I was researching it. I'm kind of a baby, but it just, usually I can get a line, just a single line, like even with Eduardo Sanchez from last week.
The man in the
wall, the man who's found in Canada.
The one you couldn't really find information on either.
At least we knew he was a DJ.
Yeah.
And he liked music.
Yeah.
And that he was a good brother and a great son.
You found at least something.
But with Jerry Hillard, nothing.
Zilch.
Nothing but his name. Not even a birth year. And with Marilyn Green, you see...
Well, you got his age.
You got his age.
So you could get his birth year from the day.
But not his birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And then in the documentary, which is an excellent documentary, you do see them see words from Marilyn Green's mother and sister, but it's more about the case, nothing about her. So the real crime that I'm telling you about today is of the murder of Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard. And of course, Alstory Simon is a great travesty that he was put in prison.
Yeah.
But if people advocated as hard for Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard as hard as they advocated for Anthony Porter, they would have justice and maybe more would be known about them.
Yeah. That's why you shouldn't always believe what you see on TV. I always...
Especially the state's attorney's office. Don't believe confessions you see on TV.
Like, yo, come on now.
Maybe actually have them and validate them first.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, come on now.
So that is the
lesson, guys, is don't believe everything you see on TV and don't do drugs.
Yeah. So my main source for this, and of course little tidbits from Wikipedia or whatever, but my main source of information was a documentary called A Murder in the Park. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's really well done. The visuals are amazing, and even though it doesn't, Marilyn Green and Jerry Hillard are merely a footnote in the story, it's still very informative on the situation.
That's good. At least there's something. Jeez. Are you okay?
Sorry, I was passionate about this one.
I could tell. You got into that one.
Yes.
But for the most part, I was able to keep up.
So my connection to this case for the Bones episode was obviously last-minute stay of execution.
Yeah.
And where the person who was stayed of the execution was the true murderer in the first place.
Yep. A lot of connections.
So
and
kind
guys,
of point there.
If you are just listening and if it did not make sense, we are on YouTube, so you could see visuals there.
Yes.
And if you just want to just watch the true crime segment, we will have it posted.
Yeah, we split it in half. So if you're just interested in listening to the true crime segment, I'll probably end up using a lot of imagery from the documentary as reference.
Especially so that we can keep track of what's happening.
Yes, I know it's kind of confusing, but the documentary kind of jumps around too. But if I told it in their order, you'd be way more confused.
Yeah.
But watching it, it's an enjoyable experience. So, yeah, check out our YouTube video, rest of our social media. We're on
review and subscribe.
Yes, please give us a
we need
review.
some feedback, guys.
Yeah, because I mean, if we annoy you, tell us what annoys you about us. We want to get we want to get better. We want to we have a lot of fun doing this.
I mean, if you like us, then yeah, give us the good stuff.
Let us
like us, yeah.
Validate us or critique us. You pick.
You do whatever your heart. If you want us to do something else, we could do something else. We'll keep this on the side, but we could do other stuff too. We like other things. But even if you guys don't, we probably will do stuff anyway, so you could stay tuned for that. We like a lot of stuff, so we'll probably try it anyway.
Yeah, so let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time. And if we haven't, completely turned you off, and you don't find us completely irritating,
let's hang next week.
Yeah, don't turn us off.
Please don't turn us off.
Stay turned on.
Thank you.
I just did finger guns.
You did not just do finger guns.
I still have finger guns in the air.
Goodbye, guys. Have a good one. We'll catch y'all next week.
Good night.
Good night. Good morning. Good evening. Good afternoon.
Yeah, let's go to bed.
Goodbye.
Next week on The Heart and the Bones.
So the idea of Hallmark hot means that the person in really any other context just looks like an average person, but in the context
I know what you're talking
of a Hallmark movie, they're like the male lead and they're seen as like super attractive.
But they're totally not.
But they're really not.